This man was fired by his boss just because he gave his last $100 to a poor girl. Sadly, walking on the side of the road, suddenly a black luxury car stopped next to him. The window rolled down, revealing the poor girl from yesterday smiling at him. "Hi, I'm Jay Miller. I work at a small factory as a laborer. I don't have any fancy qualifications. I started working right after high school. Today I noticed a girl who looked quite worn out. She had on a high school uniform, but it didn't seem like it was from around here. Despite the cold weather, she wasn't wearing a coat, and her knees were scraped, her clothes all messy. What's up with her?" My curiosity piqued, and I couldn't help but stop and observe her. Shouldn't she be heading home at this hour? Is she feeling sick, perhaps? She was Rub Thompson, her legs and hands together, trying to ward off the chill. Every now and then she'd blow on her hands to warm them up. I couldn't just leave her like that. Who knows what could happen to her out here? So what's the right thing to do? I made up my mind, went into a nearby coffee shop, grabbed some hot drinks and donuts, and headed back to her. As I approached, she seemed startled, as if she wasn't expecting anyone. "Hey, good evening." "Hey, don't worry. I'm not going to hurt you. You seem chilly, so I thought I'd help. Here, want some of this? It's fresh hot lemon tea." She tentatively took it and pressed it to her cheek for warmth. "Feeling hungry, huh? That can make you feel even colder. How about a bite?" Not sure what teenage girls like, so I grabbed a random donut. Wondered if she'd go for it. Handing it over, she muttered a soft thanks and took it. "Headed home yet?" She shook her head but stayed silent. Did she bolt from home? Crossed my mind, but didn't want to meddle too much. Then a gust lifted her skirt, revealing her legs covered in painful wounds. "Whoa, what happened to your legs?" She hurriedly covered them, but the damage was seen. "Someone hurt you? Got into a fight?" She tensed up, unwilling to talk. "Okay, sorry. There are things you don't want to talk about, right?" "Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to talk if you don't want to, but if you stay here, you might get caught by some bad people." "How about going home?" she said in a small voice. "No, I was thinking of going to my dad's far away, her father's place. That means she's currently with her mother. I didn't know what was happened to her, but it didn't seem like a situation that would resolve easily." "Why don't you call your dad? Maybe he can come pick you up." "I don't know the phone number. I don't even have a cell phone either." I was surprised that a teenager nowadays didn't have a cell phone. "Do you know the address? Do you know where it is?" She nodded and showed me a small piece of paper. It had an address I didn't recognize. "This is where you can meet him." She nodded. "It does seem far, but I'm not sure. Besides, it's late already." Saying that, I took out my smartphone and searched the address. What came up was Result Group. A construction company, maybe. I wrote down the number on a note and gave it back to her. "This is the phone number I found by searching that address. You should call it tomorrow. Then you'll probably find out about your dad. It came up as Result Group, so maybe your dad works for a construction company. I hope you can see him." Then the girl showed me a bright smile. "All right, you should stay at a nearby hotel tonight. I'll make a reservation for you. You can stay by yourself, right? I don't have any money. I had little money though. I had a watch. I had little money though. I had a $100 bill in my wallet. Maybe it is enough for a stay." Thinking that, I said, "Don't worry, I can cover for one night. After a warm bath and a good night's sleep in a bed, you should call your dad. But I can't pay you back. Don't worry about it. You just need to hope you can meet your dad." With that, I made a reservation at a nearby hotel. I took her to a hotel where breakfast was included for $100, talked to the hotel staff, and handed over the money. I also asked them to allow her to make a phone call in the morning, and then I parted ways with her. I did a good deed. My wallet was empty, but being able to help the girl made me feel good as I went home. A few days later, I was called by the factory manager. "Potter, did you call for me?" Being called by the manager was a first for me since I started working at the factory. I entered his office with a nervous look. He inside was wearing an expensive suit, not at all what you'd expect from a small factory's manager. He's the manager of such a small factory, and he's not wearing work clothes. I found it strange. "It's Jane, right?" "Yes, sir, it's Jane Miller, right? You don't have to come here anymore." "I'm sorry, What do you mean? It means you're fired. I didn't know what to say to the sudden dismissal. So pack your things and leave. Excuse me, please tell me why. Did I make a mistake that warrants being fired? I can't recall doing anything wrong. We don't need a troublemaker like you in our company. It doesn't make sense. What makes me a troublemaker? You have connections with the Mafia, don't you? What? No way, that's not true. Man, it's unbelievable. I gave you a job even though you only graduated from high school, and now you're involved with the Mafia. I couldn't believe it. That must be some mistake. I've never been involved with the Mafia, nor have they ever bothered me. You can say whatever you want, right? But the fact is, the Mafia is looking into you as a company. We can employ someone like that. We never wanted to hire a high school graduate in the first place. The previous boss used to say nice things like, if someone is motivated, that's enough, even if they're just a high school graduate. Really, he caused me a lot of trouble. Please, I really have nothing to do with the Mafia. If I lose this job, how am I supposed to survive? I don't care if you end up dead on the street. That's none of my business. Why don't you ask the Mafia for help? I'm sure they'll help you out. I really have nothing to do with the Mafia. It must be some mistake. Please don't fire me. No, the decision is final. We don't need any social elements in a small factory like ours. Next time you apply for a job, don't lie about stuff like this. I'm not lying. I've never been involved with such people. So, were you hanging out with delinquents in high school? Are those the kind of people looking for you? That's not possible. Please, Mr. Potter, I'm telling you the truth. Enough, just leave. I've told the office to pay you for today. Don't ever show your face at our company again. I kept repeating, there must be some mistake. But he wouldn't listen at all, looking at me as if I were trash. Then he said, with pointing at the door, "Is that all you've got to say? I've heard your side of the story and that's enough. Now get out. I've got work to do. It's all over." Realizing it was the end, I received a thin envelope in the office. That was my last paycheck from the company. Was the 15 years I worked so hard for really so meaningless to be ended with just this thin envelope? When I said goodbye to my colleagues, they said, "Why so suddenly?" That's ridiculous, expressing their regret over my departure. But no matter how much my colleagues regretted it, there was no changing the manager's mind. Nor was there anyone willing to convey those feelings to him. They all knew that if they did something like that, they would be the next ones to be cut off. Leaving those colleagues with a "take care," I exited the gates of the company I had been going through for 15 years. What am I supposed to do now, being fired so suddenly? All I have is this thin envelope. I just hope I can find another job before it runs out. With those thoughts, I could only see the ground beneath my feet. Then, in my downward gaze, I spotted a black tire coming to a stop. Why would a car stop here? Curious, I looked up. It was a black luxury car. It's in the way. Naturally, I thought so must be some big shot, here for the factory. Then he should just hurry up and get inside the factory grounds. Then the driver with gloved hands came out of the driver's seat and respectfully opened the rear door. A man in an expensive suit and a girl came out. The man asked the girl, "Is this the guy?" The girl nodded in confirmation. Seeing that nod, I exclaimed, "Oh, you're the girl from that time. So you did meet your dad, right? That's great. I'm really glad you were able to meet him safely." Forgetting my recent sorrows, I spoke to her. She smiled brightly and hugged me. "Thanks to you, my daughter could safely come to me." "Thank you. You're her dad. That's great. I was worried about her, but had no way to contact you after that. By the way, you're leaving the company so early. Got somewhere to be?" "Oh yes, something like that." I forced a dry laugh. There was no way I could tell someone I just met that I had just been fired. Especially not to someone who's probably a company president. I recognize him so due to riding in such a fancy car and dressed so well. I shouldn't even be speaking to someone like him. "If you're not in a hurry, I'd like to show my gratitude. It's almost lunchtime. How about a meal?" "No, thank you. That's too much. I couldn't possibly accept your gratitude for something I should naturally do. Come on, don't be like that. Of course, if you have other plans, I won't insist. But if you're free, could you join me? I wouldn't feel right letting you go without properly thanking you. After all, You saved my daughter, and a simple thanks just doesn't cut it. I initially refused because there was really nowhere a recently fired guy like me had to be. However, in such a downtrodden state, looking for another job wasn't likely to go well. Thinking that, I said, if you insist, then I'll accept your kind offer, and decided to go along. I got into the car and was taken to a high-end restaurant. Excuse me, I'm dressed like this. I was wearing work clothes, not exactly the attire for a high-end restaurant. I had thought we'd be going to something like a diner. But the man laughed it heartily and said, "Don't worry about it. Clothers don't eat the meal." He then pushed me forward. He must be a regular, as the hostess didn't make a fuss and even smiled me. The atmosphere in that private room was like a day. I thought on the spot, like, wow, looks very gorgeous. A bit uncomfortable though. It was tough being in such a prestigious place for me as a high school graduated. Yet as the drink started flowing, things began to feel different. The smile of the girl and the conversation between us was so much fun. It was tough being in such a prestigious place for me as a high school graduated. Yet, as the drink started flowing, things began to feel different. The smile of the girl and the conversation between father and daughter. Just that was enough to warm my heart, not to mention the fine drinks and luxurious food. At what I thought could be the first and last feast of my life, I was thoroughly enjoying every bite. After a while, the man revealed his identity. I should have introduced myself at the beginning, but that's just who I am. He said, handing me a business card that read, "Boss of Rizalk Family." Oh my God, Mafia? Oh, excuse me. No problem, you're right. But you know, a Mafia is also a parent. Thanks to you, I could reunite with my daughter. I'm grateful. Oh yes, my pleasure. By the way, may I ask? I've been wondering why she was there that day. That's because actually her mother and I divorced years ago. She remarried not long after. Her new husband seemed to be the vice president of a small factory, but after she passed away, his new wife moved in. At the same time, the president of the factory, who had been kind to my daughter, also passed away. Then, the vice president succeeded to the president's post, but from then on my daughter was treated like a nuisance. Could it be that's why her legs were bruised? Yeah, that's right. She was hurt where it wouldn't show, especially her back. It was terrible. Can't imagine how much it hurt. Her mother gave her an amulet before she died. Told her if she ever went to the other side, to open it and get help. That was the note. Yeah. Not writing down a phone number was a bit of an oversight. She was desperately trying to find me. But as much as she's a high school student, it was quite a distance to walk. By the time you found her, her wallet was empty. She might have ended up frozen to death if it continued like that. That was the situation. I thought there must be some circumstances. As for her mother's new husband, I just can't forgive him. He made her go through so much. I swore to get revenge. Oh, it doesn't sound good for a mafia to say such things, does it? I understand how you feel. Thanks. What about you? Leaving work at such an hour, something must have happened, right? It's odd saying this to someone I just met, especially a boss, but I was actually fired just now. Fired? Why? That's because I was wrongfully accused of having connections with antisocial forces. I have no idea how it came to that. Just this morning out of the blue, I was told that, and then fired. Huh? Wait a minute. Hey, the boss called over an executive standing by. After a whispered exchange, he exclaimed, "Idiots," and turned to me. "I'm terribly sorry. That was my fellow's fault." What do you mean? I wanted to thank you so much that I had my guys check up on you. They found out where you worked, but wanted to make sure you were really there. Seems like they mentioned our organization's name over the phone. That's probably what got back to you, right? So that's why they said I was involved with antisocial forces. It was a complete frame-up. I'm really sorry. Let me make this right. I'll talk to the manager tomorrow, explain the misunderstanding, and everything should work out. No, I'm okay. Shouldn't be okay. You must be in trouble, right? Yes. It would be a lie to say I'm not troubled. But going back to work under such a manager would just be the same old story. I don't want to work under someone who doesn't trust his employees. I see. So you got something else lined up? No. Embarrassingly, I have absolutely nothing. Honestly, if I don't find something by the end of the month, I'm in a bad spot. But still, I'm thinking of standing firm as a man. Good on you. In that case, how about I introduce you to a company run by an acquaintance of mine? They're not involved with the Mafia or anything. I think my friend would like you. No, that's okay. I wish I could cling to this offer. I want to jump at this opportunity. That's the truth, but should I really do that? After all, the other party is involved with the Mafia. Even if they say they're not involved with the Mafia, can I believe that 100%? Is that so? Well, if you ever find yourself in a bind, call the number on my card. I'm always here to help. The boss said that with a laugh, though. About a month later, I ended up needing his help. No matter how many interviews I went to, I couldn't land a job. Thus, I was thinking I'd have to settle for part-time work. I'm in the mood for a drink, but I've got no one to drink with. Would you mind keeping me company? Don't worry about the money. I'm asking for your company after all. The boss made sure to put himself lower to not burden me, inviting me in such a way. Even though he was a member of the Mafia, I was surprised to find such a person existed and decided to accept if it was a bar. You really don't want much, right? That's not true. I'm offering to treat you, and here you are picking a bar over a fancy restaurant. Well, I've never been to a fancy restaurant. It makes me restless. Honestly, I feel more at ease in a casual bar. I see. Guess I wasn't very considerate. No, not at all. Holding a beer mug, I said, "I'll take this with thanks," and gulped down the beer. So, did you find a job? Actually, not yet. Being a high school graduate, it seems quite difficult. I've applied to quite a few companies, but no luck. That's fortunate. Sorry. Yeah. I was thinking, would you mind lending me a hand? For a moment, it felt like my heart skipped a beat. Being asked by the Mafia to lend a hand, I couldn't help but think of nothing good. He continued speaking. Man, how can I refuse after hearing his suggestion? It seemed he understood my reluctance, as his proposal was far from what I had imagined. Even though I'm with the Mafia, it doesn't mean we only do bad things. I just want to serve justice to the man who tormented my daughter. Justice. Yes, over the past month, I've been investigating who exactly did such horrible things to my daughter. It turned out to be the manager of the company you worked for. He acts as the manager of that factory. The previous manager used to wear work clothes and get involved on the floor, but this guy wears expensive suits and never shows his face in the factory. He lives in a luxury residential area over 1 hour away by car, so that's why he always arrived late. Exactly. A classic case of executive timing. My daughter was practically his maid, and it seems she wasn't even fed properly, crying while eating a single bagel. Really, that bad? Yes. Yes, it's true. How dare you do that to my daughter? He muttered with frustration and finished his beer. That's why I absolutely want to revving my daughter. But when you talk about revving, of course, I'm not planning anything, babe. I don't want to end up in jail and miss out on my time with my daughter for a scumbag like him. So we're going to do it legally. Legally? Yes, that's why I set up a company. What kind of company? In the same field. But honestly, it's a bore. What I'm itching to do is seize control of that company. Seize control? Yeah, seize control. We'll seize it and oust the manager. I've got the law. He's swimming in personal debt, mostly from gambling and such, and now he's tapping into the company's profits to bail himself out. Really? Yeah, that's why the staff's pay is peanuts. It took a nosedive after the last manager kicked the bucket. Story. True that. Our paychecks took a hit after the last manager bit the dust. That's the scam. You've all been lining his pockets, so I aim to boot him from the company and turn it into a place where folks earn a fair wage. What's going to happen to him once he's out? Well, he'll probably drown in debt, and it looks like his wife only hitched her wagon to his wealth. If she discovers he's no longer the president, she'll likely leave him. And socially, I'll make sure no company will hire him. You can do that. Look, I'm the boss of Rizalk, okay? Things like that are easy for me. I understand. I asked for your help because you were also a victim of his actions. I understand. I asked for your help because you were also a victim of his actions. I thought maybe you'd want revenge too. Yes, I think all the employees would feel the same way once they know about this. They probably would. If this goes well, I plan to expand that factory even more, and I want to make you the manager. Me? Manager? Yes, I like you. Plus you understand how that factory works, right? You're the perfect person for the job. But I'm just a high school graduate. That's impossible. What are you talking about? Back in the day, it wasn't uncommon for high school graduates to be presidents. If you lack education, you make up for it with experience and hard work. Saying that makes me feel like I could do it, right? If you become the manager, I can rest easy, leaving it in your hands. The first task will be taking over the factory. How about it? Are you in? I understand. Count me in. Good. Then tonight we'll drink to the future of the new company. Well, look who it is. Mr. Potter, it's been ages. Say, do we have a shared history? A former high school grad employee doesn't exactly stick in the memory. Jane Miller, that's who. Remember, the one you let go under some bogus Mafia association claim? Oh, that. Just a routine check by Rezilk and you used it as grounds to boot me out. A mere high school grad, right? Well, it wasn't quite like that. Anyway, no hard feelings. In fact, I'm here with a proposition. A proposition? You mean you want to contract with us? Yes, your products are of very high quality. That's something I know from working here for years. That's why I want to make a contract worth $7 million. $7 million? Yes, please ensure the goods are delivered within 2 weeks. Upon confirmation of delivery, we'll transfer the $5 million. We'd greatly appreciate it. So, are you willing to proceed with this contract? Absolutely. I presented the contract on the table and requested his signature. Without bothering to read through, he eagerly signed upon seeing the mention of $7 million. Aware of the manager's lacking organizational skills, I foresaw this. Yet it still amused me to witness such behavior from a company manager. With the contract signed, he pushed the employees to their limits, demanding they work tirelessly. Although the goods were manufactured, a snag emerged during the delivery phase. None of the delivery companies were willing to take on the job. This was undoubtedly due to Rezilk's intervention. In a state of desperation, Potter himself scurried for any available carrier. That's when a truck driven by a Rezilk member appeared. The cargo was loaded onto trucks and a convoy set out. However, en route, they encountered multiple delays such as vehicle breakdowns. Consequently, the cargo failed to meet the deadline. I promptly reached out to Potter and returned to the factory. The cargo's tardiness has resulted in significant losses for our company, constituting a breach of contract. We fulfilled our shipping obligations as per the contract's terms. If the cargo fails to reach its destination, you'll be liable for $7 million.